Hello all, and thank you for your time at tonight's P&F meeting. Has your child ever received a judgment on their work which you believe lacks reliability? Maybe you believe they should have received a higher mark, or you are concerned the teacher's opinion on your child has influenced their judgment. Well, I am here to put forward an exciting proposal for a curriculum innovation within moderation of assessment which will work towards addressing this issue. For those of you who aren't aware, my name is Miss Grace McFarlane, and I'm a first year teacher in the areas of HPE and junior science. I have a keen interest in assessment practices, particularly looking at moderation of assessment. Teacher judgments are fundamental to assessment, and the quality of these judgments will determine the validity and reliability of assessment. However, evidence suggests that inconsistent judgments occur as a result of varying interpretations of the standards used to inform judgment, which has a negative impact on the reliability of assessment items. Anecdotal evidence supports this, as Mr. R. Ross, an expert within the field of assessment, identified that a major reason as to why inconsistent judgments are made on student work is because of differing interpretation of the standards and how to use them to inform judgment. Furthermore, due to the subjective nature of judgment making, teacher judgment is also influenced by factors such as the teacher's background, attitudes, experiences, and school culture. For example, Addy and Klinowski highlight that teachers will often search for qualities in student work which support their beliefs and assumptions about a student and will overlook aspects of the work which will be contradictory. Thus, it is evident that judgment making can result in inconsistencies which can impact upon the reliability of assessment, illustrating the need for innovation within assessment practice. Currently, to ensure judgments made on student work are valid, reliable and consistent, moderation practices are utilised. The Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority defines moderation of assessment as a process whereby teachers engage in dialogue to share their observations and judgments with the purpose of ensuring judgments made on student work are consistent, valid and defensible. The expectations of moderation practices are clear within the senior years of schooling as a consequence of the senior system. However, the same expectations are not present in the junior years system, and subsequently, moderation practices are not mirrored in the junior years. This is supported by R. Ross, who identifies that moderation in the senior years is structured as it is of a high stakes nature, which is not reflected in junior years practice. As a consequence of a lack of moderation policy for the junior years of schooling, significant variability between teacher judgment exists, as well as differing understandings of quality assessment and how to use the standards to inform judgments. However, when moderation practices are being employed, Addy and Klinowski identify that various factors can influence the quality of the moderation practice. For example, whilst a group of teachers may reach a consensus on a judgment, if the teachers have various understandings of the purpose of moderation and evidence is not used to reach a consensus, the moderation will not be effective, ensuring judgments are valid, reliable, or defensible. Additionally, R. Ross illustrates that teachers' perceptions of themselves and interplays of power can also influence the shared process of reaching consistent judgments. This will often result in a more senior teacher holding a greater say. Wyatt, Smith, and Klinowski identify that whilst moderation discussions surrounding judgments made on student work are vital, such discussion will not necessarily occur in the absence of policy. Thus, it is evident that whilst moderation practices are being utilised to an extent to ensure consistency of judgments, innovation is required to further enhance this process. To ensure judgments made on student work are consistent with the standards and one another, teachers need to be involved in a process of quality assurance, which is a related concept to moderation. Although moderation is important to achieve consistency in judgments as an end-of-unit practice, more recent views of moderation view it as a practice which commences during the planning stage of a period of work and continues throughout the semester, informing future teaching and learning. In the quality assurance process, teachers should co-develop assessment and develop a shared understanding of the standards before commencing teaching. Developing a clear understanding of the standard will ensure that teaching, learning and assessment are aligned and will allow teachers to effectively make consistent judgments on student work. During the learning phase, teachers can support their students to understand the standard they are working towards. Teachers then meet after assessment to moderate in a variety of ways, including conferencing, calibration, and expert models of moderation to ensure judgments that have been made on student work are consistent, valid, and defensible. Overall, it is evident that to ensure judgments made on student work are consistent, reliable, and defensible, the implementation of a quality assurance framework would be of benefit to the school's assessment practices. The innovation I am proposing is the policy and protocol for the implementation of a school-wide quality assurance framework. The major aim of the proposed innovation is to ensure that judgments made on student work are consistent, comparable, and defensible. This is a professional responsibility of teachers, as described in Standard 5 of the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers. The QCAA also highlights that conversations about judgments made on student work should occur before students receive their judgments, as it provides students and parents and carers with confidence that the decisions made on work are accurate. As already highlighted, quality assurance should be an ongoing process which informs practice. Thus, the protocol will outline what processes should be occurring at each point in the teaching and assessment period. The proposed framework will incorporate some current practices, such as conferencing moderation, and will introduce new concepts, such as calibration moderation and developing a shared understanding of the standards at the beginning of a unit. Quality assurance meetings will be incorporated into the current fortnightly department meetings and will be co-chaired by the head of department and an additional self-elected teacher. It has been decided to have 2 chairpeople for these meetings to ensure sustainability of quality assurance in the absence of the HOD or the second teacher. By incorporating quality assurance into already existing meetings, it will ensure teachers are not required to attend extra meetings, and costs will be minimal as teachers will not be taken out of class to complete this work. To further enhance the sustainability of the innovation, the processes will be reviewed annually as recommended by expert Ross to ensure practices are effective and as efficient as possible. The implementation of this policy will follow a concept of gradualism, whereby reform is gradual to ensure that all stakeholders are able to adapt their practice. This is supported by expert within the field Ross, who identifies that to avoid staff resistance to change, it is important to gradually introduce new concepts to give teachers time to grasp an understanding and implement practice. Thus, the implementation will be gradual and will take 1 to 2 years to be fully embedded into assessment practices at this school. Additionally, teachers will be directly involved in the development and refinement of the framework. The framework will be developed collaboratively between the head of departments, who will then receive feedback from teachers on the framework. This is important to ensure the framework is accessible to teachers to inspire achievable change. The implementation of a quality assurance framework into assessment practices at this school is expected to result in multiple positive outcomes. Firstly, developing a clear understanding of the standards prior to teaching will inform teacher practice, allowing teachers to better support their students to understand and work towards the standards. Handley, Donata and Price identify that students need to understand the standards prior to assessment to ensure they are aware on how to complete the assessment item properly. Additionally, by developing a robust understanding of the standards, it will ensure teachers are able to more effectively make reliable professional judgments on student work. The consistency of these judgments will also be enhanced when teachers meet after the marking of assessment to agree on the judgments made on student work. Furthermore, the introduction of a school-wide approach will further enhance the consistency of judgments, as it will ensure that judgments are consistent across every teacher and every department. Thus, it is clear that the implementation of a quality assurance framework will enhance teacher practice significantly and ultimately ensure that judgments made on student work are consistent, reliable, and defensible. In summary, it is clear that the need for innovation within assessment practices at this school is necessary to ensure consistent judgments are made on student work. Whilst moderation practices can be effective when implemented correctly in enhancing judgments made, a process of quality assurance should be implemented as it informs and enhances the teaching and learning process. This framework can be implemented with minimal time and cost requirements and has many positive expected outcomes. Thus, it is clear that this curriculum innovation that I have proposed to you tonight would be highly beneficial to this school. Thank you for your time tonight.